Right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Cover Band Central podcast, number 195 for Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. I'm Steve Witchell in New Orleans.
And I'm Tony B coming to you from New Jersey. What's happening?
See, now I have to turn you up.
Turn it up.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. We had a week off. We might do this bi-weekly. We're not sure right now, but for now, we're here. We're live. And if you're coming in live, come on in and say hello. Tell us where you're from, and we will say hello back. And if you want to get in on the topic of discussion that we'll bring up in a little while, stick around and we'll field your comments on it. Because I do want to know people's opinions on this and their input on this. This is a good one. I'm sure you saw it,
Yep.
Tony.
Yes, I
And and what's up? That's Eric. He always calls us handsome.
did.
Eileen is from Buffalo. She's here live. Hi, Eileen. Come on, Eileen.
Nice. Come on, Eileen.
Vishalia gives us a little sunglasses thing. We are broadcasting live right now, as I said, on this date to the Cover Band Central Facebook page, the Cover Band Central Facebook group, and the Cover Band Central YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. The link is in the description. Click on that link, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified when we go live. Also, there's a link to the Pantheon network where we're broadcasting the audio podcasts. We just joined those guys, and there's a wealth of great music-related podcasts there, so check them out. The link is in the description for that, too. And make sure you follow and go back and listen to any of our previous podcasts. So we're broadcasting all over the place, Tony.
Yeah, Pantheon has a plethora of podcasts, Steve.
They sure do.
You know,
A plethora.
plethora of podcasts.
Plethora. Maria's in Florida. Hello, Maria.
What's up,
Nice.
Maria? You look nice and tan.
Nice to see her. Grant's in Laceyville, Pennsylvania. That's some
Yeah.
outfit there. His bass player.
Yeah, it's good. You know, those guys are known for what they wear.
Yes. By the way, if you're listening to the audio podcast and you want to see what we see, you can always watch the replay on our YouTube channel.
Do you see what Steve sees?
Right. These are going by quick here. Ronnie's in California. What's up, Ronnie? Edward's in New York. He says hi, guys. Elizabeth says good evening, guys. Hello. Jay Weaver in Tupelo, Mississippi.
What's up, Jay? Nice GTO.
So far,
behind him there.
mostly America here. Mary from South Carolina.
Yeah.
Gerald just says cool. Mike's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Michael.
Still within the states.
Yes. Matthew in New Mexico.
Also, yeah.
Also, Sean in Mississippi.
Yeah, right.
Mary's in Flint, Michigan.
Hey, Mary.
And Maria said hi, folks. And here we go. Tia, or
We're
T, is in Finland.
Yes.
We got some Europe there.
National guest.
So, yeah, good stuff going on in the Cover Band Central land and in our in my professional life, probably yours too. But that's what we talk about here. If you're new to this podcast, Tony and I are both players, professional musicians, and we work. And we talk about our recent experiences on this podcast, and then we get to the topic. And you can chime in on all of that. So,
Absolutely. So what's
what's-
new and exciting, Steve Witchell? Why don't you go first and kick us off with your excitement for the past 2 weeks?
I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to read this comment first. Robert said, "Wow, had no clue that anyone cared about cover bands, and I can't think of any others except for the Atomic Punks from San Diego. And I guess they're the same guys, but changed their names to Steel Dragon." Well, there's thousands, tens of thousands, probably, of cover bands out there, Robert.
Indeed.
So get in on the group if you're not part of the group, and you'll see. There's a bunch of stuff there. There's stuff every week, dude, that gets posted that I'm like, wow, this is a great band. Never heard of them. Didn't know where they're from. There was a live sort of a clip band somebody put together of this band playing a club one night, and they just put little clips of each song, probably about 30 songs in about a 6-minute video.
Okay.
And great song selection. The band was a big band. They had 2 guitar players, keyboard player, at least 2 singers, maybe 3 singers, drummer. And they were great. Great song selection. Rowdy crowd. It looked like a fun room. So I love
Cool.
seeing that stuff in the group. So if you're part of the group, post your stuff because I definitely watch it. And I'll promote your band. If I think you're good, I'll promote your band. All you got to do is ask.
But not only are you watching it, Steve, everyone on Cover Band Central could potentially be watching it as
That's
well.
right. Right.
That's a big audience.
Steven said one of his favorites is hot dog water. And I
Nice.
love that name, hot
Yeah.
dog water.
Yes. Reminiscent of the hot dog carts of New York City.
Matthew asks, are there any cover bands still live streaming? Yes, there sure are.
Mm-hmm.
And that became popular, of course, during the pandemic. And you'll see people, solo musicians or full bands at gigs live streaming. In fact, one of my singers during my day band, Cornerstone, live streams often. He sets it up on stage, kind of puts it at a little tilt
Right.
on a stand, and it's facing in towards the band. So you can basically see the whole band, except for kind of the guitar player. But he live streams all the time. So, yes, to answer
Yeah,
your
I mean that's
question.
become so much more prevalent since COVID, and I know you spearheaded a big initiative on that early on,
That I
and
did.
actually coached some people on how to do it.
That I did. And I still encourage it, highly encourage it, because it's not going to go away. And especially with like metaverse things
Mhm.
happening, 10, 20 years, that's going to be normal where you're promoting yourself in the metaverse or you're live streaming in the metaverse.
Mm.
So get on board now with that. So what was your question? What was my
I said, what's new and exciting? What'd you do this? Fill us in on the past 2 weeks. What have you been doing?
Well, past 2 weeks, my normal schedule has been Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 2 gigs per day, 2 different bands, 2 different clubs across the street from each other on Bourbon Street. And so start at 2, end at 1:30 on Friday and Saturday, end at 12 on Sunday. So I did that the previous weekend. Then this past weekend, I only played during the day. So the guy I'm kind of subbing for long term came in and did this past weekend, and he's going to do it in 2 weeks again, too. And then probably from there on out, it's going to be me. So,
Mm-hmm.
so it was nice to get a little reprieve this weekend to have my nights off. It was like, yeah, go in and do 1 5-set gig, piece of cake, you know?
Yeah, instead of the 36-set marathon
Right.
gigathon that you normally do. Because yeah, Friday, Saturday, Sunday doubles is a lot, especially
Yeah.
back to back like that. You walk across the street and play at the other club.
Yes,
So there's not even downtime to go drive to another gig. You just basically walk across the street, right?
that's it. It's I haven't counted the paces, but I'm gonna guess it's between 15 and 20 paces. I'm gonna
Paces.
count
Are
the
we,
paces.
are we having like a old style gun draw where you draw your pistol and you do 20 paces and turn around and shoot?
It's not a bad idea on actually, it's a very bad idea on Bourbon Street because if you shoot,
Yeah.
then somebody else will shoot too.
No, I just meant as far as paces, like as opposed to steps.
Yeah, like a equal amount of space between your
Are you
steps.
taking large strides or are you taking casual?
Casual.
Okay,
So I'll count them this weekend. Let's see how many. I'll report that back next week.
gotcha. Right. So
So Tammy mentioned this band, Henley Street Country Club, Australia. They're still doing videos. They're not really live streaming, but they do videos of covers, and they're fan-freaking-tastic. I highly recommend, if you're looking to check out a good cover band, check them out on YouTube, Henley Street Country Club. I did a feature on one of their songs, at least one of them, which is on the Cover Band Central website. So if you search Henley Street Country Club on the Cover Band Central website, you'll find that article where I featured them.
awesome.
I was going to put up the website. There it is, coverbandcentral.com.
That's us.
Yes. So yeah, that's a great band.
There's a lot of great cover bands out there for sure. I mean, there's a lot of great tribute bands too. A lot of talented guys and gals playing out there.
Yeah, Steven put a link in for Chris Manning, I guess is the name. So we'll check that out later.
Cool.
Or
Thanks.
should we check it out now? Should we check it out now?
After you give your little recap, we can go back and check it out. Oh, you know what, Steve? Let's check it out now. You're right. Let's just do it. Just hop on real quick and take.
Well, I could give my recap still while I'm searching for it. So
Okay, we could do that. So if you can multitask.
yeah. So yeah, it was. I mean, kind of a major thing. I don't know how much I want to talk about this. Oh boy.
Okay, so then don't talk about it if you're not comfortable sharing.
I,
Share something else.
no, I'm going to share, but I can't give too many details on it. but let's just say there was some challenges this past weekend with one of the members um, imbibing a little too much
Mm.
and not completing the the work day.
Mm. I've lived through that challenge as well. Not being the one who
Yeah.
imbibed too much, but having someone in the band that couldn't finish a gig.
Yes, 2 days in a row. Same person,
Wow.
2 days in a row. Which is a shame because Saturday we were killing it. Friday was St. Patrick's Day, so it was
Yep.
it was busy.
Yep.
And then Saturday we were killing it. We got people in the room very early, and I used the tip app thing
Yep.
for the day band, and I have signs in front of the stage that I made myself with a QR code, and people can request a song and tip the band. And we put our entire song list in there, and people can pick from that, or they could put in their own song, or they could just tip the band. But it's there, and people use it, and we promote it on the mic. But it's very obvious if you're looking at the stage, you can't miss these signs.
Gotcha.
They're on white paper with black ink,
Hmm.
black lettering, nice and big where people can see it and read it from a good distance. And sometimes people come in and they just do it automatically. Like people will see it now, they'll go do it automatically. And sometimes we have to give them a little boost on the mic and say, "Hey, there's these things in front of the stage, whatever."
Hmm.
But Saturday, people came in, and lots of people, without being prompted, saw it and started scanning the thing to the point where it was like pretty early in the work day in the set, the gig day, and I didn't have to call songs. We were getting all requests.
Wow.
They were just lining up. There were so many of them, and we got them on the app, and we got them in the house too. When typically the singer will walk around with our tip bucket once a set and take requests. So we got a lot in the house, and we got some really good tips. But the downside perhaps is that people will buy us drinks, people will buy us shots, and generally the bartenders know what we like. So a patron will go up to the bar and just say, "I want to buy the band a round of shots." And in fact, I do promote that sometimes. I'll say that on the mic.
Yeah, until you have 40 shots lined up on the front of the stage, and then it becomes like, uh-oh.
Yeah, I mean, not 40 is a little exaggerated, but yeah, I mean, we were getting really kind of shot after shot. We were getting tips, requests, shot after shot. And I did one or two, I think, and then I had a bigger cup by my amp, and I just kept pouring the shots into the cup, and the cup was full by the end of the day.
Mhm.
Because I like drinking a little bit, but I can't get to the point where I'm out of control because I'm calling this show, and I just don't like that feeling on stage. I like a little buzz.
And I don't even know if you can play. Like for me, I don't drink when I play because I find that I can't play at the level I want to play at.
Hmm.
If I start having 2, 3 beers, you know,
Yeah. So
one beer is fine, but beyond that, I would drink water the entire night.
Right. So Tim said you must fire the player, no other answer. Unfortunately, it's not an option. And the reason is because I play in New Orleans. There's a lot of bands, there's a lot of musicians, but there's not a lot of musicians to get to do the job, to do this job.
Mm.
There's more work in New Orleans than there are musicians, which is really a shame because New Orleans is a music city.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's very replaceable, really. And he does a great job. He's a good singer. He plays acoustic guitar. Um, he appeals to the country. He's more of a country singer, so he appeals to the country crowd. There's a lot of those people, and yeah, and he does a great job with the crowd, with interacting with them.
Sure.
So
And this isn't something that's repetitively happened, right? I mean, outside of
there,
this weekend.
it's happened before. It's not every time, but it's happened before.
Mm.
And I love the guy. So, but yeah, like George said, you can't play trash. And
No.
And and it's obvious when he's getting to that point. You could just see it happening where he's getting like, and then I saw it happening, and I saw him just kind of like almost blurry eyed, and then he took another huge shot, and I'm like,
He's
that's
done.
that's
Yeah.
gonna be it, man.
Yep.
And that I was right. That was it. So, so that was the sort of excitement for the weekend. Uh,
So when that happens, though, do the other guys in the band pull him aside and have a convo with him and say like, "Hey, you can't be doing this"?
well, the band leader does and
Yeah.
did,
Okay.
but he wasn't there Saturday. So we had a
Mm,
sub on drums on Saturday.
gotcha.
Um,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, no, we've all lived it, but like you said, if you can't fire that person, you got to have a heart to heart with them because it's not fair to everybody else in the band, right? That is bringing it and is dedicated and is sober
and
and
he
to
and he
play.
knows it.
Yeah.
It's Sunday. Then Sunday he said it to me. He's like I just can't drink. Um,
Well, that's
and
just it. If he knows that he can't control himself, then he probably shouldn't drink at all.
yeah, I mean, well, he also got that day, the Saturday when he left, he got arrested that night.
Oh, fantastic.
So he literally was bailed out by someone and brought to the gig on Sunday from jail. And
And then drank again.
no, and he
Oh,
did actually. I saw him, but he wasn't drinking like he was trying to keep it on the down low, but he wasn't. Uh,
he wasn't pounding shots and out in the
he's
open again.
yeah. I mean, he's got something to address there probably.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so we and we were all razzing him about being in jail. Every single one of us were razzing him. And we started playing. We played our first song, and then I started playing Jailhouse Rock on bass.
And then Jailbreak by Tin Lizzy.
Well, I just started playing Jailhouse Rock, and then everybody fell in, and he knew the words to it, so
So
he
he
sang
sang
it.
it. Nice.
So that was kind of a funny thing. And we've never played that. That's a fun thing I like about this band, especially playing during the day where we have a little more flexibility to goof around and to
Hmm.
try stuff we've never done. So we do that often. We play songs that we've never played before and try to get through them. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Nice.
But at least we're trying.
Hey, it's all about the experience of having fun and
Yeah.
getting the crowd to have fun.
Yeah. So how about you? What's going on? Did you do any playing the last couple of weeks?
I did. I was actually off last week because my boys were home for spring break.
Hmm.
So me and my youngest son recorded in the studio all week. Spent a lot of time playing music, doing music. And then I played Sunday, not this past weekend, but the prior weekend I played Sunday,
Hmm.
indoors, big venue, great show.
Hmm.
And then I played Saturday, this past Saturday. And it
Right.
was a super exciting show, Steve, because we actually bought a new subwoofer for our PA. And it was
Ooh.
the first gig that we used it at. So we shook it out real quick and got it hooked up, and it was awesome. It added a lot of, big difference to the sound.
Yeah. Nothing
You know?
beats a good sub.
Yeah, a big one too. We got an 18, so it's pushing, moving some air. So now you can actually feel the kick drum out front.
Right, right.
I have everything in my in ears, so I mean, like we've talked about, I mix my entire drum kit on my own mixer, give
Hmm.
myself my own mix, and then I control the monitor mix coming in, so I can feed what I want into it,
Right.
and then I just bounce back to them whatever we need, that they don't have channels for out of my board. Like I'll put the bass player into my board because he's going direct, out of his cabinet. So
Uh-huh.
if I don't put him into my board, I won't have him in my in ears, my monitor.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that was exciting, and it was actually exciting too to see the feedback from the crowd because people noticed it right away. Like when we went on break, at least 10 people were like, "You guys, a couple people recognized it immediately and said, 'Oh, you guys added a sub, didn't you?'" And some people were like, "Hey, man, like I don't know, it sounds different from the last time I heard you here."
Mm.
So that was all positive. And then we're very structured in the songs that we do, so we don't like just whip stuff out. I mean, we do occasionally, like if someone asks for a request and it's in the right atmosphere, we'll just wing it, like you guys would during the day. But
Right.
lately, we've been having a real tight knit set with a real, the songs laid out in a certain order. Like we've always talked about set lists. So you have your dance section, you have your slow,
Hmm.
your faster, and we mix it up a lot. But we unveiled a new song on Saturday night. Sunday also. So Sunday and Saturday, the last two gigs, we played Subdivisions by Rush.
Ah, cool.
Great tune. A lot of fun to play.
In the high school
But
halls.
that's right. But it's not something you can wing.
No, 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 certainly not.
And the cool thing about that is it's like the challenge of like I went and learned it note for note because you know you're going to be scrutinized playing it, right? Like any drummer in the room is going to be like, "Oh, let's see what this, how this is going to go," right?
Right,
Because I've seen bands do it before and I've never seen anyone play it exactly, note for note perfect. So that
right.
was my mission for my, prior to this unveiling of this song. I committed myself to learning it note for note.
Nice. That I'm sure that
Yeah.
took some time, huh?
Takes a little time. Took me probably, 4 hours worth of total investigating and listening and going online and researching and looking for tabs and finding out exactly what was going on. But,
Right,
the difference it makes is that you can play the song with so much more confidence because you know exactly every inch of it.
that's a great feeling.
You
Nelson,
know?
we're in. I'm in New Orleans, and Tony is in New Jersey.
Yes. And you're not improvising on anything in that, because it's Rush, so you have to play it very structured and it has to be like exactly like the record.
Right. Great exercise as a musician.
Absolutely.
To be to learn a song like that note for note and really really try to get it down, all the nuances, the tones and everything, and stick to it, because I've had to do that recently too with a lot of rock box songs. So
But you know what's interesting, Steve? When you learn the song like that, it's not just so you learn it, right? You learn it note for note, right?
mhm,
But that doesn't mean you're going to play it exactly the way it should sound because
mhm,
there are nuances there, right?
right,
There are certain inflections in the fills. There's certain timings of the hi-hat. So Neil plays in a very precise way, but he plays with a certain energy, right? So
right.
that's what we've talked about in the past. I personally try to capture the energy of whatever I feel that drummer, whether it's Steely Dan or it's
Uh-oh.
Tom Petty or it's Rush, you know what I mean? You got to really listen to what's going on there. So Rush was probably the most challenging because you really have to, he hits so hard to get the pronunciation of every sticking and every note, and you have to play it that way. And if you don't,
Right,
you will notice it. Like when you watch back the video, it's not crisp if you're not playing it with a lot of intensity and volume.
right. Yeah, like George said, it's he played in a Rush tribute band, and it's tough to
Yeah.
and it requires a lot of practice. Sure does. I mean, one of the best rock bands ever. Uh,
But a
Jay,
lot of
I'm sorry, Tony. Yeah, Jay asked, "What's the name of the app I use for requests and tips?" There's two different ones that I like. One is called Juke, Juke, and the other one is called MySet. I use them both, depending on the situation, but they're both great, and they make you a lot more money.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
you've had great success with that app.
and I still do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matthew, what's everyone's best tool for learning about learning material? Um,
Mm,
depends
I
what you're
think
learning.
I think everyone's different in that regard because I know some musicians I play with have to go home and physically shed the tunes and practice them and play them and learn them.
Hmm.
But I think everyone has a different approach because I seldom do that. I just put the songs on, listen to them, like if I'm in the car driving around. And once I learn them that way, then I just show up at the gig and play them.
Right,
Like Rush is really the first song I had to actually go home and practice, you know,
right.
work on like the stickings and the fills. But, 99% of the time I just listen to the songs and then learn the arrangements, learn the songs, because I'm singing background vocals too. So again, it comes down to that, at least for me, is the intimate knowledge of the song, right? Like you can listen to it 25 times, but
Hmm.
until you've played it 4 or 5 times at a gig, that's when you really start to own it.
Yeah, agreed. Um, Steve O sings in an Alice in Chains tribute band, requires a lot of work. Any
Yeah.
tribute band requires a lot of work. Matthew said for learning he uses AnyTune Pro. I haven't used AnyTune. I use RipX, where I can isolate tracks. I put
Hmm.
any MP3. It's called RipX, RIPX, and yeah, I can isolate tracks and slow it down without changing the pitch. So I love that. It's invaluable to me.
Yeah. I mean, from that regard, I went on YouTube and typed in Rush Subdivisions drumless. A bunch of drumless versions came up. One actually came up with tab that highlighted the notes as it played down the whole sheet.
Okay.
So that was perfect. And I could just go into the YouTube setting and put it at 3/4 speed, half speed, same thing, can slow it down. Someone else already professionally isolated the drums, like
Right.
Rick Beato would, if you listen to him on YouTube. He always
Yeah.
has ways of segregating all the channels like he's working with a master mixtape. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
another
easy to,
option too. You can find stuff on YouTube that's already segregated that way.
yeah, that people already have done it, but it is easy to do nowadays with AI
Hmm.
technology and everything. And I love that tool. I use it all the time. I'm going back and listening to tunes that I learned, 30 years ago, and relearning them. Isolating the tracks and hearing things that I never heard before.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's the thing too. If you once you've played a song for a number of years, you may be playing it slightly incorrectly, but
Yes,
you're playing it the way you've always played it. So you're like, oh yeah, it's fine.
it's my version, is what you say.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
until
my
someone points it out and
version.
says, "Hey, that part doesn't exactly go like that," and you're like, "No," and then you listen back to it and you're like, "Oh wow, listen, I just learned something new about a song I've been playing for 10 years."
It's almost like the telephone game. You remember the telephone game you
Of
played
course,
in school where,
yeah,
one person tells the next person something and it goes around the whole room, and by
yeah,
the end it's a completely different thing.
yes,
So it's like it's your own version of that. Like
right.
things just change slowly over time. And
But
yeah, I
you know,
recognize it.
yeah, and the more you listen to the songs and you go back and say, "Ah, okay, now," like you said, back to the nuances, right? Whether it's a
Uh-huh.
vocal inflection or a drum riff or a bass part, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Nelson said, I'm new to this channel. Is this just open discussion? I'm so behind you all using these apps on set for the fly if someone is requesting. Yeah, the apps work fantastic. I highly recommend them to anybody who's playing live or if you're just live streaming as well. But yes, open discussion. Nelson, you can ask questions, leave comments, whatever you like.
Yeah, but the tip app makes a lot of sense, especially because it engages the audience and they love it, and everybody's requesting a song and tipping the band.
It's so much easier to call the show that way. Some people have their show set in stone, and that's the way they want to run it. So
Hmm.
it's not as easy for them to make use of that or make money from it. Whereas during the day, yeah, we don't care. We played twice on Saturday. We played a song that we had played 15 minutes ago because we got
Request
we
for it. Yeah.
request for it. That happened twice Saturday, and we're like, yeah, whatever, because there is the turnstile aspect to Bourbon Street clubs. You don't have to pay to get in. You can walk in and out with your drinks. So, by
Right.
15 minutes later, the crowd's a little different. There's going
Hmm.
to be some people that are the same, but yeah. So so we got some good questions and comments there in the comments, but let's look at our topic for today, Tony.
Let's look at our topic,
Because I
Steve. What is
saw
our
this question posted on the Cover Band Central in the Cover Band Central Facebook group. What's the best advice you'd give to a young musician? And there are a lot of responses on this thing,
Oh, I'm sure.
and some of them serious and some of them not. Be forewarned. But before we get to that, let us give a few pieces of advice, and we'll give one at a time here, Tony. We'll do a little back and forth of advice that we could give to a young musician. And I'm going to start with take lessons, take private lessons with somebody who is good at that instrument. That is advice, because right away you'll have a mentor and you'll have somebody that you can ask questions to. Make sure it's somebody you get along with, and that they're good, that you have respect for them at what they do. But take lessons, or you could. I mean, of course, you can go to music stores to do that. They still do that up in Jersey.
They do, and I'd say it's a great message and advice to give because as a drum teacher myself, I can tell you from experience, right, that you need to find the right teacher, and same thing with the student. And once you develop a relationship like that, it can last a long time. It can last a lifetime. It could last a year, it could last 10 years, it could last a lifetime. And if you don't like the teacher that you have, you can go and find another one, or if you have other friends that play the instrument, who are they studying with, right? And you try to seek out, the best teacher you can find. So
Right.
piggybacking on that, my first little nugget of advice would be to develop a good practice routine and a good mindset to be diligent about staying committed to a consistent practice routine because you will see the greatest results as a young player and you will flourish, more quickly by taking lessons. But if you're not practicing what you're being taught and you're not working on things on your own and you don't develop a good routine and a habit of practicing, you're going to progress at a lot slower rate, right? Because let's say it takes you 100 hours to get really proficient at something, you could accomplish that in a couple of months. You could accomplish it in a year. You could accomplish it in a couple of years, right? If you practice an hour a week, it's going to take you 100 weeks, right? If you practice an hour a day, it's going to take you 100 days. So
Right.
it's all relative, you know?
Yes, just like
Yes.
any other craft, and like in sports or whatever, you need
Mhm.
to practice.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's excellent advice, Tony, is to right in the beginning get yourself into a good routine, because as you and I have talked about many times, when you get into a habit of doing something, you see progress over time, and it makes it easier to accomplish because you don't have to think about it. It's a habit. This is what I do.
Yeah.
So so yeah, that's an excellent piece of advice for a young musician. Lessons, practice routine. I would add learn music theory. At least basic music theory, no matter what instrument you play. Even if you're just a singer, you should still learn music theory. And I'll give you a little story, Tony, that I don't know if I've ever told you. I took music theory in high school 2 years, my sophomore year, or my junior year and my senior year. And it was both basically the same class. The second time it was called Music Theory 2, but there were so few people in the school that signed up for Music Theory and Music Theory 2 that they just combined it into one class. So I kind of went, and the second year I was able to review everything I learned in the first year. And
Sure.
just so it's the same lessons again, and then added a little on top of it. Invaluable for me learning that. But one of my classmates in my senior year was Jane Krakowski. Do you know who Jane Krakowski is?
Yeah. The actress, right?
The actress. She was, at the time, she was on a soap opera. I don't know which one, but she was acting. But she was, I think, a freshman in high school when I was a senior. So she's a couple of years younger than me. And she would, be gone sometimes to go shoot. Like she was allowed days off from school because she was on TV.
Mm.
But she came and she took music theory, and she was an excellent student. She was, she did her homework. She she was very she was very disciplined
Well,
as a young girl.
think about it. She's a professional actress, so think of the discipline needed to learn the scripts, show up, and be dedicated to pursue that while going to school.
Right?
So she
Yeah,
had a good
and
work ethic, you know?
she's obviously had a great work ethic and probably a great upbringing, supportive parents, but learned early to study, to practice, to do that, and look at the success she's had. She was on 30 Rock, which was one of the most successful comedies of the 2000s, and just recently, this kind of ties it into the music theory. She just started hosting a new version of the show Name That Tune, the game show.
Yes, I saw that. I remember when that was out.
So music, her music background, so all the way back to, 1984, 85, when I was in high school with in a class with her, she has taken that knowledge and helped her in her career, 30 years down the road. So learn, that would be a piece of advice I'd give to a young musician. Learn music theory, at least basic music theory. Learn keys. If you can have a piano or a keyboard where you can learn the notes on that, and that's the kind of the best way to learn music theory is on a piano because it's all
Hmm.
laid out.
Yeah.
So one more from you, and then we'll go and read everybody else's comments. What do
I
you
would
got?
I would say once you're in a situation or at a level that you can proficiently play your instrument, right? Videotape yourself so you can see what you look like, see your expressions on your face. If you're in a band, no better thing than to video because everyone's coming up to you at the end of the night saying, "Oh, great show, man! You guys sounded great. This song was great, and that was excellent." Blah blah. Blah. Then you watch back the video, and you may have a different opinion of it, right? When you critique it, not to be in a
Right.
negative way, but it's just a way for you to look and say, "Ah, I could be doing that better. I don't really look like I'm happy or I'm having fun on stage. I look like I'm nervous." So when you're in front of a camera and you watch yourself back, it's not like an ego thing where you're like obsessed with watching yourself. It's the thing where you're observing what you're doing so you can become better. right? Because if you're going to be in front of a camera or in front of people, you don't want to be up on stage like a deer in the headlights, right? You want to look like you're comfortable and you want to look like you belong there. And it takes, years, right, to get to that level of comfortability. So if you start off young, even performing in front of your family, right? Just get used to playing things for other people to get you accustomed to performing. So you're not the greatest, guitar player that no one's ever heard of in your basement,
Yeah, I
right?
agree. And Leo said practice in front of a mirror, practice in performance mode.
Yeah, 100%. And
Uh,
I'll leave you with this thought because I know we want to get to something else, but this is a great quote. Listen to this.
Originality. Well, originality is when you have so many influences that you can't tell them anymore. You can't see them anymore. They've all melded. And as your confidence rises in your craft, your personality steps in front of those influences, and that forms your voice.
So there you go.
who is that? Adam Levine?
Geddy Lee.
Oh, that's Geddy Lee. Wow, he sounds like Adam Levine.
Yeah. So he said you take all your influences, right?
Yeah,
And you collectively process that. And then as you gain confidence as a player, you step in front of those influences and your own identity emerges. So
yeah.
as a young
It's great.
player, listen to as much music as you can, listen to as
Right.
many styles as you can, and get as much like a sponge. Just take it in, right?
Yeah.
Different nuances, different feels, different genres, different artists, listen
Yeah.
to everything. And
Yeah.
then you can pick and choose.
Yeah, Grant said that advice
go.
would be to explore different genres. You can use techniques from every genre to give you a more rounded skill set. Don't be just a metal musician or just a country. Be well rounded. And I agree with that too. And I've always been a fan of all types of music.
Yeah.
So that has helped me because I'm a fan. So I listen to classical music. I listen to some country. I listen to jazz. I listen to metal. I listen to pop music. Everything. So all right. So let's go back and see what some other advice
Yes.
people gave here
Let us.
in the Cover Band Central Facebook group. Before we do that, we'll take a little break for the audio podcast and listen to these words, and we'll be back for that. So we have this question that was posted today in the Cover Band Central Facebook group, which you can go check out. You can join the group if you like, Cover Band Central on Facebook. And the question was, what's the best advice you'd give to a young musician? Lots of answers in here, Tony.
I'm sure there are, Steve.
330 comments. So
All right.
let's
And
take
some are silly, but some are, diamonds in there, some nuggets.
yes. So sweet. Yeah. The first answer was don't. Nick said practice, which we just kind of went over.
Yeah.
Count, said Jim. I don't know what that means.
Yes, that means if you're a drummer or any musician for that matter, know where you are in the measure. So count music. So you don't just say, I think I have to come in here. No, you're going to come in on the you're going to come in on the end of two, right? And if you're counting, then you'll know what the end of two is.
Yes. And you need to know that no matter what instrument you play.
Yes.
Absolutely. You need to know how to count. You need to know what the end of two means.
Yes.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You need to know that.
Yep.
That's important stuff. Dan said, have open ears. Don't just listen to one genre, which we just talked about.
Yep.
Roger said, have a day job, which is not bad advice. Until you can make a living playing, you should have a job.
Right.
Chase said, go to college. And he might be trying to be funny or serious because you can go to college, go to Berkeley and major in music and
Yeah.
have a career from that. So practice and then practice at Kurt. Great advice from Michael. He said, have fun and play lots of what makes you happy. That's great advice.
That is great advice. Because we do this for the joy of music, right?
Yes. We started to play our favorite songs, not because we all wanted to learn scales or rudiments. Right? Did you
Correct.
were you like, oh, I can't wait to learn a paradiddle? Or were you like, I can't wait to play Rush?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then later on, knowing what a paradiddle was, you can then say, I could use that for a different sticking to get over to where I need to be. So
Right.
again, all the knowledge you acquire is all pertinent information that can be applied.
Right. Christina, don't say that. She said stay away from CBC, but she's joking.
Maybe she means CNBC, not CBC.
Mike said start on piano, study theory, and start singing. So we talked about theory, and I mentioned about piano too, but singing is a great advice too. Sing.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if you think you can't sing. Just
Yep.
sing. Just sing.
And if
Sing
you're
a
embarrassed,
song.
yeah, do it by yourself, right? Like do it in a way, that makes you comfortable.
Yeah, when I took theory, especially in college, we had to do sight singing and ear training. Because when I went to college, I majored in music and I took music theory again there and really got a good review again. So, like for the third year in a row, I got a basics review of music theory. And but we had to do sight singing, which is like it's no joke. You gotta like you gotta learn how to do that.
Not like sightseeing where you drive around and look at things. You drive around and have to sing. What is sightseeing?
No.
Like, read
Well,
something
you
on
would
a
have to look at it. Look at sheet music and sing it.
Oh, okay. As part of the theory, because you're supposed to know what the notes are, so you should be able to follow it as if you were singing along with yourself playing piano.
Yeah, and ear training as well. So,
Yeah.
which is a big thing. What you mentioned Rick Beato before. Rick Beato is big on ear training, and he has courses and stuff you can check out. A little free plug for Rick Beato because I'm a fan.
Yeah, but it also depends on the person's level of talent, right? Because some people are born with a really good ear. Like,
Yes.
they can just pick it up and they can hear it and they got it, right? Same way they can acquire proficiency on an instrument quickly, right? So if you have that skill, I used to tell my best students, don't take that for granted and not practice, right? Accelerate because you're already way ahead of the pack. So work
Right.
extra hard because you have a duty, to your talent to be able to fulfill that potential.
You said duty.
Duty.
All right. So
Responsibility, Steve, as better
so
put.
so Gary said, whatever you play, play from the heart. Treat every song like it's the first and last time you're ever going to play it. Excellent advice. As far as advice to a young person, I guess so. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, they can still play with their heart, even if they're not playing it 100% correctly. They're like I said, as long as they're having fun, right? That's the main thing you want to do, especially when
Right.
you're a young musician. Don't be too hung up on, if you're not playing something 100% or you don't think you're as good as you should be at your age or whatever it is. Just have fun.
Have fun. Yeah. But don't do it with drugs, Samuel
No.
said. Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad, okay?
Mhm.
Yeah, Rich said about having fun. James, good advice. Let people's praise go to your heart and not to your head. And that's especially true for being young. And I mean, I'll tell you, when I was young and I was praised, because I was praised very young,
Me
and
too.
and I let it go to my head. Absolutely did. And I probably knew it too, but I didn't care. I was young. I was having fun. I'm like, and
Hey,
yeah,
it's funny.
kind of paid the price for that.
Yeah, one of my first drum teachers, Sonny Igo, who was a big band drummer, right? So my dad said, go study with Sonny because you'll learn jazz and big band and you'll be able to sight read and it'll be another genre that you're not familiar with because I was playing in all hard rock and metal bands at the time.
Mhm.
But he said the same thing. I went to him at a very young age, like 11 or 12 years old, and I was way ahead for my age of my level of talent. And he just said, almost exactly what you just said. He said, just remember that you are a fantastic drummer. You are great. And people are going to tell you how great you are. Just know that there's thousands out there that are way better than you are.
Right.
So don't let it go to your head. Always think that you're not as good as you could be and strive to be better. And if you let it go to your head and you become complacent, you're going to get passed by.
Right. Agreed. It
You
took
know?
me a minute to learn that, but I did learn it eventually.
Sure.
Um,
That's part of CBC Wisdom Hour we used to have, Steve, right? We share
right.
with people some of our experiences to try to help them navigate through those pitfalls so they don't have to suffer like we did.
Exactly. We haven't abandoned the whole wisdom thing, and that was the name of the podcast up until about a month ago,
Yes.
the Wisdom Hour. So you can check out our previous podcast. There's a link in the description for that. So check out every single one. Play from passion. Don't be. Yeah, we've read that. Great advice from Larry, and this is something I did early on too. Gig and jam with anyone, anytime, everywhere. Don't be too picky when you start.
Yeah.
After you get a bunch of experience, be very picky. Have lots of fun along the way. So yeah, Larry, excellent, spot on.
Yeah.
Play with everybody. Play all the time, and you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna not gel with certain people. That's all part of the process, a necessary part of the process. You have to make those mistakes. You have to jam with those people that don't work with you, because that's how you're going to find the people that do work. And that's how you're going to get to the point where you don't make mistakes. But you have to. You can't get there without doing it.
No, and try to play with people that are better than you.
Absolutely. You know, and I did that, dude, for most of the time I've been playing. And I did it early on, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until later, considerably later. And I was like, I really like playing with people that are better than me, that challenge me, that I look up to, because it makes me better.
Sure.
And then it makes me feel like a sense of accomplishment, like, oh man, I was able to play with that person who I respect and others respect too.
Yeah.
So yeah, great advice, Tony, saying that. Play better with people that are better than you.
Absolutely. And, and focus, like try to listen, right? You listen more than talk, like, in dialogue. So same thing with music, right? If you're so focused on what you're playing and wait till you hear me play this, you're not really listening to what's going on, right? So to interact with the other musicians, you want to listen to what they're playing, see where the groove sits, understand where the energy is. And, if you're a drummer, remember, again, great advice from my first drum teacher, you're driving the band. So you need to put forth the energy that's going to drive that band, because you can have a crappy band with a great drummer and the band's going to sound great. You can have a great band with a subpar drummer, the band's going to sound subpar, right? It's not saying that drummer's the most important guy, but he dictates the energy of that band. He dictates the force of which that is being delivered, right? If I'm just complacent and laying back there and just going through the motions as opposed to fired up and I'm bringing it's going to sound like night and day.
Right.
So don't get complacent.
Yes. Good point. And Tony said one word here, and I think you kind of alluded to it already, Tony, but listen.
Yes.
This is Tony as well. He said, listen.
Smart guy. Good name. He's Tony B too, isn't he?
No, Tony E.B.
Oh.
E flat.
Gotcha.
E flatster. That's what I'm calling him. E flatster. We talked about it before, but Mick said gig sober. Show up at least an hour before the show, which is excellent advice too.
Oh yeah, be early for sure.
But that's not necessarily. I mean, young musician, you're not necessarily even playing gigs yet, so that's for a little bit down the road. But
yeah.
Show up at least an hour before the show. Deliver more than you promised. Spend money on really good PA equipment. But somebody else said, listen. Stuart said, play music that makes you happy, but definitely challenge yourself too. Try to stretch yourself.
Oh, definitely. Don't, like I said, with the complacency thing, don't just play things that are easy, right? Stretch and try to play things that you don't think you could ever play. And maybe you can't play it now, but, as a young musician, maybe 2 years from now, you'll be able to play it.
Right.
So don't lose sight of the goal, right? And persevere to achieve whatever it is that you set your mind to.
Right. A lot of...
While you're reading those too, Steve, getting back to what you said about getting to the gig early, and these are younger players maybe, so they're not gigging yet, but if they develop a real strong practice routine and good habits, right, and they take their craft seriously, then that will fall into the next phase of their development where they do get in the band situation, and they're not going to be the weak link. They're going to be, either the band leader, or they're going to be a force in the band to help everyone be aligned with practicing or rehearsing or whatever it needs to do, because they've already had that ingrained. So they're going to be getting to the gig early naturally, just because they want to be prepared and they want to be ready. They're not going to show up 5 minutes before and scramble, because they're not accustomed to doing that in their everyday life.
Agreed. Yes. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. All right, so Chris said play with a metronome, which I highly advise to not only drummers but any musician. If you want to practice with a metronome. Learn what it feels like to play in perfect time.
Yeah, and my God, what a difference it makes.
Yeah.
I played with a metronome for 20 years, and you understand what tempo is. What, if the song is at 144, 165. 88, you have a good barometer of what that speed is going to be without even playing with a click. And we play everything to live at all our gigs to a click. I'm the only one that can hear it, but I play everything to a click.
Right.
And it really makes the band 1,000 times more tight, solid, rock solid, because you're in perfect time.
Right. Yeah.
And, again, in the beginning, it's very intimidating to play with a click. You're very conscious of it. You're focused on it. After you've played with it for decades, not even that long, but after you've played with it for a while, it's just there. It's like something that's just in the back that you're not even paying attention to. It just becomes an internal clock where you're listening and it's in your ear, but half the time you can't hear it if you're playing perfectly in time with it.
Yeah, because this magical thing happens with the click that I learned when I first started practicing with a metronome. Yeah, I mean, you're at first you're listening to it, but the key is, as you know, you're not listening to it. You are it. You need to be the click. Be the click. And once you be the click and you're in that zone, there's this magic world that nobody else experiences but you. And that might sound very fanciful, but it
But
really is
but it's
true.
true. It really is true.
It
'Cause
was true. It's this space, this groove. When they talk about getting in the zone, when you're playing with other players and you get in the zone, and that's what that feels like, where you're all in this one place that nobody else is, that you get to just swim in, and it's, I mean, and that you're like Steve. People are like Steve. For all click, 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 click. You get that? Yes, you do. You just get that. It's a feeling like no other. Once you are the click.
Yes. Once you get to that nirvana of being the click, you will not want to ever go back.
Exactly.
It also reminds you, like in a live setting, what the proper tempo is for that song and where the groove is. Because as you know, we all know, gig adrenaline kicks in and everybody wants to play everything fast. And if you videotape your band and you watch it back, you'll have a good indication of whether or not that's happening, right? Because you listen to it and you're like, it's just a little, it's like 3 to 4 BPM too quick. But at the gig, it feels great, Then you watch it back on video and you're like, it's too fast. So that helps with that too, because
Right.
you're playing it at the right tempo every single time.
Right. And I'm sure that even without a click, you would still be pretty locked in because you practice with it. So you know where that zone is. You know what it
Yes.
feels like.
So when we transition from a song that's, let's just say, 132, and the next song is going to be 124, it's segueing into the next song. So at the last couple of measures, I'll reach over, stop the click, right? Start the next song, and then as we're grooving on the next song, I'll tap in the tempo of 124, and then on a downbeat, start to click again, and you're correct. It's like every time you're right there
Right.
because
That's
you're used
so
to where
cool.
where it should feel because you've done it 1,000 times.
It's so cool. I love it.
And you know why, Steve? Because I am the click.
You are the click. Somebody said get a real job, but you know what? You get a real job. This is my real job. Um,
Define real, right? Get a real job.
exactly.
It could
Yeah.
be anything.
Define real. Um, uh, Study music theory. Other people said practice. Um,
Hey, listen, a lot of great think tanking out there with a lot of commonality, right? So people are thinking along the same lines. So that means
yeah.
that, a lot of people are on the same page that we are, which is very exciting.
Yeah. Scott said play every day. Play every day.
Yeah, if you can, for sure.
Sergey said learn the fundamentals of your instrument. That's pretty good advice too. Like if you're playing guitar, learn about the anatomy of the guitar. Learn what everything is called, how how it works. With everything on in the instrument,
Hmm.
how you can change it. What other parts there are that you could replace it with. I mean, learn everything about the anatomy of your instrument.
Yeah,
And I'm sure for drums, that's a lot.
yeah, yeah.
Because
But for me,
there's a lot of parts to drums.
yeah, well, drums is very, like, you have to be able to set it up ergonomically, right? So you're not reaching and hurting yourself by playing it, right? Because stuff's positioned incorrectly.
Right.
And then, yeah, learning and understanding how to tune a drum, right? Because there's no tuner. Like a guitar, you just tune it up, to the E or whatever the string is. On a drum, you actually have to tune the two heads. So if you understand as a drummer how that whole system works, you go on YouTube, and just look up how to tune a drum. Talk about the resonance of the drum, the shell, how the heads react to that. So there's a lot of physics behind it,
Right.
and acoustics. But once you understand how it works, it's like everything else in life. It gets a lot easier.
Yes. So that's great advice. And the last piece of advice I'm going to share from this thread here. But if you want to read this whole thread, it's in the Cover Band Central Facebook group. So if you're not part of the group, make sure you join the group. There is a link in the description. You can click that link and come join the group and read all these comments. But the last one,
Last one. Hang on.
there you go. Anthony says, keep on sucking until you succeed.
That's great.
I love that
Great
because
advice. Keep on sucking until you
just
succeed.
keep sucking, because you're going to think I suck sometimes. And sometimes you're going to be like, wow, I did good. And then you're going to be like, I suck.
Well, it's also perspective, right? You go see a phenomenal band or a phenomenal guitar player, and you're a guitar player, right? You don't want to get discouraged. You want to be inspired, right? So again, flip the mindset to say, oh, I'm not as good as that guy. I'll never be as good as that guy. Wow, that guy was really good. I want to strive to, to try to get to that level. I may not be able to get there, but I may be able to get halfway or 3/4 there, as opposed to just being like, I shouldn't even bother practicing anymore because I'm never going to be that good.
right.
So don't defeat yourself, right?
But smile in your suckiness too. Smile through it. Yeah, I suck, but so what?
Hey,
Keep on sucking until you succeed.
think about how many adult players are not the greatest and think they are, right? So they're confidently sucking.
Just
You know?
comedy sucking. It's
Beautiful.
also, Leo said fake it till you make it, which is another way to say it. But because no matter how far you get in your career, you're never going to be like, well, that's it. I've learned everything and I'm playing perfect now and all the time. That does not ever happen. I've been playing for 40 years and I've played thousands of gigs. And I still feel like, oh, shit, I got to practice that. Wow, I hit that note wrong.
As you evolve as a player too, your style might change a little bit. Your view on music changes. You grow into your role, so to speak, right? Because you played much differently today than you did 10 years ago, as opposed to 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you do evolve that much, and but it's never ending, and that's the beauty of it.
Yes.
Too. It's
Infinite.
a wonderful world to explore that there is no end to. That's why we love music, right, Tony? One of the reasons.
One of the many, Steve.
One of the many, and we
Enjoy,
do.
and you can do it, well into your older years, because it's
I'm
not
going
like
to do it.
you're not boxing, you're not running track, you're not doing things, and as long as you take care of yourself, you should be able to keep playing for as long as you possibly can.
I will be playing until the day I die.
Indeed. Me
That
too.
is absolutely true. All right. So another hour is up. Thank you guys for listening, watching, being part of this. Again, coverbandcentral.com is the hub for everything. Go there and you can create a profile for you, your band, or both. It is free, but it's got all the information for everything else. But we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, and we're on Pantheon now with the audio podcast. So check that out. Check out all the other great audio podcasts on Pantheon too. There's a lot of good stuff there. If you like podcasts and you like music, check out all the other stuff there. And again, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Click the bell so you know when we're going live. And you could also give stars. I forget to always mention stars.
Yes, give stars.
Give stars while you watch this broadcast on Facebook, on the Facebook page. It's a digital gift you can give if you like what you see and hear, and we do appreciate that. Ellen said there's always room for improvement. Keep learning new stuff. And that's a goal for us with Cover Band Central, to always educate, share some wisdom, share some humor, and just have a good old time. Right, Tony?
And that's a good way to end, Steve, that even that last quote is something you can apply to life, not just music, right? Never stop learning, never stop trying to get better.
Agreed. Again, thank you guys for listening and watching. Subscribe to all this stuff. Follow us everywhere, and we'll see you next time.